Okay, Chapter 18, Managerial Accounting. First of all, let me say congratulations. I think you finished the hardest part of the class. That's the completion of financial accounting and that project. So I think the worst is over. I'm not saying there's still a lot of work to be done and some challenges, but anyway, congratulations on that. Now let's shift gears a little bit, and we're going to go from financial to managerial accounting. All right. Managerial accounting provides financial and non-financial information for managers of an organization and the decision makers to help them run the organization. Whereas financial accounting provided general purpose financial information to those who are outside the organization. So the financial accounting was highly regulated. Managerial accounting is not. It is specific for that organization's use. And it's not for external use, so it doesn't have the same regulatory climate on that. Purpose of managerial accounting, again, it's for all the issues of management. You've heard management has planning and control and feedback and monitoring their progress. That's exactly what this accounting systems do, is to provide the forms of measurement of managing a company on an ongoing basis here. This slide, I would spend a little bit of time. It just shows you some of the differences between the financial and managerial accounting. And you can see, like, there's no gap constraints in managerial. Again, it's not as regulated. It's for internal use. These reports are not reported to external users. So it's quite a bit of a different aspect to this. Again, fraud and ethics, that doesn't go away whether we're dealing with managerial or financial accounting. There's pressures to perform, a lot of pressures in business, and people will take shortcuts. And so fraud and ethics, just as you do with financial accounting, managerial accountants will have to sign off on the code of ethics, and it will always be a challenge because of the pressures to perform. Okay, let's get into some specifics of managerial accounting. We're going to start by accountants will classify costs by how they behave. So it's cost behavior what we're talking about. And there's three types of basic costs. One is fixed cost, the other one is a variable cost, and then the other one is a hybrid or a mixed cost. So let's look at a picture of a graph of a fixed cost. Just as the graph shows, it's a fixed amount. It does not change when activity changes or volume changes. A classic example of a fixed cost would be rent. Rent is not going to change whether you stay in your apartment for 1 month, for every day that month, or 3 days. It's a fixed cost based on time. And also, a lot of times, fixed costs are also often known as period costs, because a lot of times they're time-driven. A variable cost will vary according to the level of activity. The more activity, then those costs will go up correspondingly. And this is typically brought down to a unit cost. We'll get into that a little bit later. Do sort of catch an eye on this graph, because you are going to see it on your exam and on your homework. Again, fixed and variable cost. A mixed cost is a combination of maybe fixed and variable and so forth. So we are going to study of how to separate these out and what type of costs go into these. Direct costs is another type of classification versus indirect costs. And direct costs are traceable to a single product. As an example, for instance, let's say you're a bicycle manufacturer. Those costs that are directly going into it, the specific labor costs, your specific materials costs, whether that be the handlebars, the frames, the tires, chains, and so forth. Whereas indirect costs cannot be traced to a specific product. An example with this would be like maintenance. Well, maintenance might cover a whole shop that builds a variety of products. So you're going to have to separate those that are traceable to those that are just sort of mixed up and maybe covers a variety of departments. A good example of this would be like janitorial, as an example. Covers a variety of departments and so forth. The degree of control depends on the level of management, and again, they're just talking about senior managers might take a much broader, longer-term view. Supervisors are maybe dealing with the daily expenses such as supplies, maintenance, and scheduling of direct labor, and so forth. Typically, the higher you get up in management, the broader your vision is, and also the longer the time frame. A couple keywords. This is by relevance, and you're going to see this on the tests as well as your homeworks, and this is used in business quite a bit. And the first one is sunk costs. These are costs that have been incurred and cannot be avoided or changed. And once you have taken a sunk cost, these costs should not be considered in decisions going forward. An example would be if you bought a piece of equipment and it has no salvage value, and once you bought it, that's it. You have to absorb that cost. An example they give you here is an automobile purchased 2 years ago. Well, the $15,000 cost, or at least the 2 years depreciation, and you can't recover that. It's gone. Out-of-pocket costs, this is what is going to be the future outlays of cash. Again, the future and should be considered decision. For instance, maybe maintenance on that equipment or something of that nature. Now, these are the things that management needs to focus on going forward. Not you look forward. You only look backwards for a learning curve, but you cannot recover these sunk costs. Opportunity costs. A lot of people are confused by this term, and it's very, very real. An opportunity cost is the benefit lost by choosing one alternative over another. And this is true of your life. Case in point, you have an opportunity cost. You've chosen to spend your time listening to this lecture. The opportunity cost of listening to this lecture was maybe you could be doing something maybe more enjoyable. I find that hard to believe, but it's possible. Okay, but that's the opportunity cost, is what you gave up to participate with this activity. Some basic 3 costs that go into your managerial accounting. And this is not going to go away. You're going to see this for the next 8 chapters, so don't gloss over this area. And that will be your direct labor, your direct material, and then manufacturing overhead. And so this slide I would highlight and go back to, because you're going to see this time and time again. And then they're also known as period costs. Now, selling costs are incurred to obtain orders and deliver finished goods, but not be part of the product cost, and same with the administrative costs. So a manufacturing cost, these costs down here are not part of the manufacturing cost. Although they are part of the organizational cost, though. Let me stop here, and then I'm going to go ahead and start another video to continue forward.